there are minds that see the world not as it is, but as it could be. Minds that hear a pattern in chaos, that can replay a symphony after a single listen, or solve complex equations without writing a number down. To most, these moments appear miraculous, as if genius had suddenly emerged from nowhere. But behind that brilliance lies one of the most mysterious relationships in neuroscience, the link between autism and savant syndrome. What if the same neural pathways that make social communication difficult can unlock worlds of artistic and mathematical brilliance? What if the brain, in its complexity, hides not just limitations, but an entire secret orchestra waiting to be heard? Long before we had the words autism or savant, there were those who defied every definition of intelligence. In the 18th century, an English farmer named Jedediah Buxton astonished aristocrats by calculating the number of words in a sermon he'd just heard. Not roughly, but exactly. He could multiply vast numbers in his head faster than scholars could write them down. Yet, he could barely read or write his own name. Across the Atlantic, a man enslaved in Virginia named Thomas Fuller was known as the Virginia Calculator. When asked how many seconds a man had lived, who was 70 years, 17 days, and 12 hours old, Fuller instantly answered, 2,210,800 seconds. When someone corrected him for forgetting leap years, Fuller quietly added, "You forgot the 17 leap days." His answer was perfect. These were minds that lived in a world both luminous and lonely. People who seemed disconnected from society, yet profoundly connected to the language of pattern and number. Early physicians didn't understand them. They were labeled idiot savants, a term that, though cruel by today's standards, was born from genuine awe. The word autism itself didn't appear until 1911, when Swiss psychiatrist Eugen Bleuler used it to describe extreme self-isolation seen in schizophrenia. But it was Leo Kanner, in 1943, who reshaped the term to describe children with unique social and linguistic patterns. They lived in their own worlds, yet in those worlds there was remarkable structure. Almost simultaneously, in Nazi-occupied Vienna, Hans Asperger described children with brilliant memory, mathematical skill, and deep focus, yet who struggled to connect emotionally. Both men had seen the same thing through different lenses. The mind's inward turn was not madness, but a different kind of order. And here lay the seed of our modern understanding. Autism was not merely a deficit, but a divergence, a brain tuned differently, sometimes in ways that unlocked extraordinary talents. By the late 20th century, psychiatry began to realize that some autistic individuals possessed isolated islands of extraordinary ability. The phenomenon was renamed Savant Syndrome, and no one studied it more deeply than Dr. Darold Treffert, who devoted his career to understanding these remarkable minds. Treffert called it the island of genius, a vivid image for a mind where one part of cognition blooms to impossible heights while others remain quiet. He studied cases like Kim Peek, the man who inspired Rain Man, who could memorize over 9,000 books and recall every fact with perfect accuracy. But Kim was different from Dustin Hoffman's portrayal. He wasn't autistic. His brain had developed uniquely after damage to his corpus callosum. Yet, his memory, pattern recognition, and savant traits helped scientists understand what such ability looks like neurologically. Then came others. Leslie Lemke, blind and born with cerebral palsy, who at age 14 heard Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 only once, and played it back flawlessly, note for note, emotion for emotion. And Daniel Tammet, an autistic savant who can recite pi to over 22,000 digits. He described numbers as colors and shapes, and learned new languages in weeks. each of them revealed something profound, that genius and difference are not opposites. They coexist, intertwined, each feeding the other. The human brain is a universe of connections, about 86 billion neurons, each firing across invisible constellations of thought. In autism, those constellations are wired differently. Modern neuroimaging has shown that many autistic brains display enhanced local connectivity, regions that communicate intensely within themselves, but less with distant areas. It's as if the brain's symphony focuses on solo instruments rather than the entire orchestra. Yet what those instruments can play is often breathtaking. Dr. Treffert proposed that in some cases damage or inhibition in one hemisphere, especially the left, may release previously suppressed abilities in the right, leading to hyper-detailed perception, memory, and creative insight. Other researchers, like Uta Frith and Simon Baron-Cohen, suggested models of weak central coherence and hyper-systemizing theories, explaining how some autistic individuals excel at perceiving parts rather than wholes, or systems rather than emotions. This isn't a flaw, it's a different form of cognition. Where most see noise, they see structure. Where most glance, they observe. Consider a mind that remembers every day of life in vivid detail. What the sky looked like, what was eaten, what song played. To most, that's impossible. To some savants, it's daily reality. Researchers have recorded that savants often enter trance-like focus when engaged with their talent, a state neuroscientists compare to flow. Brain activity shifts from analytical to associative, bypassing the usual filters that edit perception. In essence, savant ability may emerge not from adding intelligence, but from removing inhibition, letting the brain's raw patterns flow unrestrained. It's not that they learn differently, it's that they perceive differently. There is both beauty and burden in that. The same mind that can reproduce a cityscape from memory may struggle to read another person's face. The same sensory intensity that creates art can also cause pain. Yet through that tension, something ineffable emerges. The human spirit adapting, expressing, transcending. In the 21st century, a revolution began, not in laboratories, but in hearts and communities. The neurodiversity movement reframed autism not as illness, but as a natural variation of human wiring. Autistic advocates began to tell their own stories, of struggle, yes, but also of meaning. Scientists began to listen differently. We started to see that perhaps our definition of intelligence itself was too narrow, too human-centered, too focused on conformity rather than creativity. Today, research into autism and savantism is uncovering deeper questions. Is savant ability an extreme of normal memory mechanisms, a window into universal potential, or a side effect of neural networks unmasked by difference? The answers remain elusive, yet profoundly human. What makes a genius? What defines intelligence? These questions echo through centuries of misunderstanding and awe. The truth may be simpler and far more mysterious. The human mind is not a single melody, but a vast interwoven symphony. Some notes rise above others, some remain unheard until silence allows them through. Autism and Savant Syndrome remind us that difference is not disorder. It is variation, resonance, adaptation. The same neural rewiring that isolates one aspect of cognition may amplify another. The same brain that struggles with communication may perceive the world in fractal clarity. And perhaps that is the real secret. Not that these minds are superhuman, but that all minds are far deeper than we can see. As we learn to listen, truly listen, we begin to hear that hidden symphony, playing not just within them, but within all of us.